Good morning and welcome to the eStar Resources PLC Exploration Update. Throughout this recorded update, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and they can be submitted any time just by using the Q&A tab that's situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company can review all the questions submitted today and publish responses where it is appropriate to do so. Before we begin, I'd like to submit the following poll. And I'd now like to hand you over to CEO Alex Walker. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me today. So today the intention is just to give a short update on the exploration works for eStar from last quarter of 2024 and a little bit of insight into our future work programs into the first quarter and second quarter of 2025. First of all, we'll start with a bit of a reminder of eStar and what we're doing. eStar is a principally copper-focused explorer based in Kazakhstan. We've been operating on the ground here for more than 3.5 years, and we've had some fantastic success with our exploration strategies to date. Our three primary strategies are, number one is volcanogenic massive sulfide exploration, or VMS exploration, in the east region of Kazakhstan, where in April last year we released our first JORC compliant resource of 20.3 million tonnes at around 1.2% copper. This is infrastructure-led exploration where we've spent the bulk of our time and resources over the last 12 to 18 months. Serious amount of processing and infrastructure in the region, and so any success that we have here has a very low threshold in terms of being able to put those deposits into development. What I like to say is very achievable, certainly for a small company. The next two strategies, the first is for copper porphyry-led exploration, principally focused around the Balkasheli magmatic arc in blue, principally dark blue. Initially, this was funded by a grant from BHP Explore, which is a program which BHP put together. They've accepted around 1% of the applications into the Explore program. It was a $500,000 grant for us and the team, and we completed the majority of that work, or we completed all of that work last year, and are now continuing with that exploration strategy based on the work that we did with BHP. The third part of the strategy is for sediment-hosted exploration. Chris Van Wyk, our technical director, gave a more detailed presentation on this exploration or this deposit style earlier on last year. Sediment-hosted deposits can be significant, largely or typically they're higher grade than porphyry targets. And Jessica's Gun is the primary example of that. It's a 22 million tonnes of contained copper deposit in the center of Kazakhstan. You can see on the slide there. So they're the three deposit styles we've been working on and continue to progress all three strategies. Firstly, I'll draw attention to the drilling at Verkhuba, which is, I guess, our principal asset in terms of our most advanced asset to date. Again, the Verkhuba deposit is around 20.3 million tonnes at around 1.2% copper, plus about 1.5% lead and about 1.5% zinc and about 0.3% lead. Now, at the end of last year, we explained that we were going to continue drilling this deposit and advancing it ourselves. One of the fantastic things about this deposit is the amount of information we have on it. More than 46,000 meters of historic drilling has been digitized and converted into a resource model. So we have a very good handle on where we understand the mineralized lenses to be and where we understand that the mineralized lenses aren't and why they may or may not be there. And so the intention of this program is to get more confidence in the resource, but also to provide some infill drilling for this deposit. We were able to complete just under 1,000 meters of drilling last year. As we stated, it was 990 meters of drilling. 3 of those holes were broken down and submitted for assays. Around 270 samples were submitted for assay, and we're expecting those results back in the very, very near future. Really encouragingly, all three of those holes intersected mineralization. 2 of them in particular were drilling a gap in between 2 known ore bodies, which you can see in this area. Now, we had no geological reason to believe that these ore bodies don't connect. It's simply often a matter in this case, and for much of the deposit, that they're not connecting because of a lack of data, rather than data proving that they don't connect. And so we believe that the drilling that we've just conducted will prove that thesis, and the assay results will come back and demonstrate that we're able to connect some of these ore bodies and thereby increase the size of the resource and also, importantly, lower the strip ratio. So what I mean by that is, if this is all within the modeled open pit that we have to date, an optimized open pit, which came from AMC Consulting back when they did the exploration target in April of 2023, then we can basically convert areas that would otherwise we have to take out because it's waste, but that now becomes ore. So this sort of thing drastically improves the economics of mining a deposit like this, or any open pit deposit. If you can convert waste to ore, if it's something you're going to dig up anyway, then it's basically something that you dig up and you get paid for instead of not being paid for. So this is a really fantastic result for us, showing mineralization in between these lenses, and we really hope to demonstrate that we can continue to do that with other parts of the deposit. One of our other updates was on the Talovskoye IP Anomaly. Now, Talovskoye is a target which has been, quite exciting for us for some time. It's taken longer to progress, largely due to the fact that we've gone back to a regional understanding of what we actually want to be targeting. So Talovskoye it was an exciting target from everything that you see at surface, but we wanted to know what it was exactly that we're chasing. Is it sort of thin, high grade, massive sulfide pipes, or is there something a little bit more significant there? So we've been working through that geological model, understanding the rock package that it sits in. Is it the same rock package which has produced these much significant mines of Talovskoye, Artemyevsky, the big ones that are in production in the belt currently today, or is it something slightly different? So the IP work that we've done is to help us try and understand that, and actually it started to demonstrate that it could well be both. So importantly, there are two narrow shallow zones at the northern line of the deposit, which could well be a couple of these thinner but very, very high grade massive sulfide pipes. But what we also really like to see is a larger anomaly that's sitting to the south of the deposit that's been picked up on every line that was done on Talovskoye. And so what we need to do to vector in on that and understand exactly how deep it is and what angle it's sitting at is we need to pick it up on additional IP lines. So we need to run some additional IP lines at 50-meter spacing in between the southern line, and that will give us our vectoring target for drilling next year. So we're really excited by that. Talovskoye is a very, very high grade, or to date, it's been very, very high grade pipes. Last year, we sampled some massive sulfide areas of the deposit over different areas, and we got results like 6.3% copper, 5% lead, 0.8 grams gold, and more than 100 grams silver, more than 8% copper, more than 20% lead, 1.1 grams gold, and more than 100 grams silver. And so, any success here would be hopefully resemble those sorts of grades, which is really exciting for us. Oops. The last update that we gave on our announcement last week was for our Porphyry, which we're now calling Porphyry epithermal gold exploration. A quick explanation for that is simply that epithermal gold is very often associated with porphyry copper exploration. So we don't actually have to change our exploration strategy to incorporate epithermal gold. However, if we happen to stumble upon an epithermal gold target whilst we're looking for copper porphyries, then we can use a lot of the existing work that we do to help us understand these high sulfidation epithermal gold targets. I won't delve into that in a lot more detail, but what I will say is that some of these targets are they tend to be quite high grade. I believe the average grade globally is around 5 grams per ton. The size of them can vary from a few 100,000 ounces to multi-million ounces. And the examples that we put in our presentation included Yanacocha, which is 36 million ounces, and Verkhuba, which is 19 million ounces. And a little bit more indicator for that, Verkhuba is around 1,500 meters surface expression. The main ore body for that is around 1,500 meters by 500 meters surface expression. And our anomaly here is over 4 kilometers by 1 kilometer surface expression. So you start to see the potential scale of the deposit that's possible for a high sulfidation epithermal target of this type. We now need to go and prove how much gold it actually contains. So we've already demonstrated it's auriferous. We got rock chip results up to 0.28 grams per tonne and silver results over 7 grams per tonne, both of which are multiples of what you would consider to be an anomaly. In fact, the gold is at least 10 times what you'd consider to be anomalous on a high sulfidation epithermal target. And of course, the size is significant. We've done a little bit more work in terms of hyperspectral processing. So the original work that we've done as part of our targeting for the whole belt as part of the BHP Explore program included ASTER imagery, which is, in essence, it's satellite imaging which gets reflective bands and can give you a concept of the mineralization, mineral species, or alteration that's around some of these targets. There's some new processing data, EMIT and Prisma is one of them, that gives a significant more amount of detail over these targets. So instead of around 14 bands, which ASTER has, these have around 230 to 240 bands. And so you can be a lot more precise on your imaging. An image on the far right is an example of that, where we've highlighted the pyrophyllite, what is almost certainly pyrophyllite, as part of that ASTER imaging. That's super important for us because it demonstrates that you're in the very, very hot part of the system. Now, eStar intend on further using this processing technology or this exploration technique around the rest of the Balkashili magmatic arc. So we've already got our 20 priority targets, and we'll re-rank them by using the Prisma data, and it will also intend on saving us time and money when we go out into the field, because we can go straight up to the hottest parts of the system, sample those directly, so it'll be less samples and faster visits per target to help prioritize and limit those targets for mining license applications, excuse me, for exploration license applications this year. So it's been a really fantastic end of 2024 for us, a really exciting start of 2025. And we look forward to bringing you more updates as things progress on all of these targets. That's it for us. I will happily take questions.
Perfect, Alex. Thank you very much for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions just by using the Q&A tab that's situated on the top right-hand corner of your screen. But just while Alex takes a few moments to review some of the questions that have been submitted today, I'd like to remind you that the recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard. Alex, as you can see, we have received questions, and if I could ask you just to read out those questions and give responses where it is appropriate to do so, I'll pick up from you at the end.
Thanks very much. First question is from Peter M. Thanks, Peter. Given that assay results are expected soon, what would be the next steps if they confirm additional mineralization? The next steps is to continue with our exploration at Verkhuba. So we had originally planned around 4,500 meters of drilling. We've done the first, within that, we've done the first around 800 meters of drilling. And so we'll look to continue with that program. There are timing restrictions on that. We intend on going out to site probably in the next few weeks just to inspect the conditions. But what I'm expecting to see is several meters of snow. And so we need to have a look more specifically at where the collar locations are and when we think that we can actually get safe access to those locations again. So I can't tell you definitively when we're going to start drilling. I wouldn't expect it to be any later than late April, early May. But until we go out and inspect the site, I can't expect it to be any earlier than that. But we look to continue with that program, and we're really, really happy to be drilling the rest of this. One of the comments I made in the announcement was that this is not the highest grade portion of the deposit. Winter had started, and we had pad preparation to get underway, and we wanted to get the drill rigs turning quickly. So we went for the most accessible parts of our already defined drill program. So these are the areas that were infill rather than the highest priority in terms of thickness and grade. So we'd be more excited to drill the next phase of drilling than in fact we were for this phase of drilling, despite the fact that we're obviously happy with this phase. Paul, what scale are we looking at on that snowy image slide again? Yeah, apologies, Paul. It was probably a little bit small on that summarized image, but the anomaly on the right-hand side, or let's say the north east corner of the license area, is the gold anomaly. That's around 4 kilometers by 1 kilometer. And I should note again, there's 2 artisanal pits, which we believe is mined for gold, artisanal pits on either side of that anomaly, just off the license. So we know there's gold on it because we found it in soils, and we're fairly certain there's gold on it because people have been digging it up in the past. So very, very large anomaly and very, very exciting if, when we get a chance to drill that. Do we anticipate any permitting or logistical challenges in advancing Talovskoye to a drill ready stage? No, we've got our permits in place to get that to drill ready. So we just need to run the IP lines and then schedule the drilling. How do you plan to fund further exploration? Well, at the moment, our current planned exploration program is fully funded. Thanks, John. But we're an exploration company, so if we increase the size of our exploration, then we'll need to find ways to fund that. We are looking at potential partnerships, perpetually looking at potential partnerships, in particular for the large scale exploration, so sediment hosted copper and copper porphyry exploration. They're 2 strategies which, if you really want to conduct them well, often requires a large balance sheet. So, we're continuing to assess that and have conversations with relevant parties. Would eStar consider accelerating exploration through strategic partnerships, or is the plan to continue independently? I think I've just addressed that. We're not against partnerships by any stretch of the imagination, but we also feel that we can't be beholden to them. That's actually bit us in the past, waiting for certain answers from people with regards to progressing. And so, we don't want to find ourselves in the position where things are delayed because of a party who don't have skin in the game like we do. So, as we spend money on just about every project we have, when we've spent money on it, we've increased the value of it, or we've dropped it like AOGAS last year. And to make sure our every dollar is spent in its most efficient manner. We've added a lot of significant value to our exploration portfolio because of that, more than 230,000 tons of contained copper. And so we intend to keep progressing these targets. The closer you get things to production, like Verkhuba, the higher in value they should increase to, the closer to the net present value they should get. And so we expect to continue to progress those without being beholden to other parties, despite the fact that we're open to it. Next question was, what about the sediment hosted copper? So no significant process on that in terms of the update. What we continue to do with the sed hosted copper is assess the data. We've got the full GeoTech report and we're very happy with that. What we do now is we've got more refined areas in what is otherwise quite a significant basin. Much like the copper porphyry, you start with more than 200,000 square kilometers. The sed hosted copper is not too dissimilar in size. So the work that we did with GeoTech might refine that down to, for example, 6 or 7 key areas of 2,000 square kilometers each. And now with those areas, we can do things like download the 1 to 50,000 scale maps, review those, any historical drilling that might be strong indicators, and other things like geophysics, seismic or IP work that will help us further refine the targeting of those areas. So we're doing that at the moment through winter. We can't get on the ground too easily anyway and view the areas. So we'll continue to do that through winter, and we expect that as soon as things clear up in summer, we'll be able to get boots on the ground for all of these targets and be applying for licenses. How much work needs to be done before drilling Snowy? That's a good question, Philip. We don't expect too much. First passes, again, boots on the ground. So with any luck, that will be around April. Once we've confirmed visually the mineralization that we've seen by satellite and obviously with our soil sampling, and that it is indeed porphyry that we're viewing in that area, for example, then it's likely that we would do some geophysics that would give us our drilling targets. It would either be geophysics such as IP or maybe offensive drilling if we can do RC drilling, for example. So probably one of those two, although I don't want to speak for my technical team. They might want to do some mag as well, but there's every reason to believe that it will be drill ready this year. Okay, Richard, why do you think the market is not seeing the positivity in this latest RNS with an uplift in the share price? Richard, that's a good question. I often find it difficult to second guess the market. I expect mineralization isn't results. The reality is that mineralization is positive, but we don't know if it's 0.2% copper or 1.5% copper. Obviously the latter being potentially commercial, with the lower grade being less commercial. So, potentially it's the aspect of that uncertainty, and once we can get that information to the market, maybe it will react. I'm always perplexed by the lack of reaction to Verkhuba in general. If we were drilling an exploration project, we'd have a similar valuation. Only an exploration project will cost 3 times as much to get to the level of data that we already have. So we're not drilling as many dud holes looking for the edges of the deposit, or holes too deep while we try and figure out the lithology, because we already have all of that information. So, we're valued like an exploration company whilst having 230,000 tonnes of contained copper, and knowing that we can advance, through scoping study, as long as we continue to get the results that we've had in the past, we can advance through feasibility scoping and into mining license applications very, very quickly by spending a significant amount less money than if this was a new discovery. So I'd love to see the market react. Hopefully they will sometime soon. We'll keep doing good work in the meantime and keep spending money wisely. How do you view the timeline for shareholders benefiting from all your hard work and progression? Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I agree. I've put money into every capital raise myself. Probably, I think, more money than I've had in disposable income the last 3 years. So I would like to think that that's any day now, quite frankly. Like I said, we'll continue to put out good work. The market has for various reasons been quite hesitant across the board. It's not just Easter, but gold is rallying well. Copper's been performing. It's been stable, but we're obviously expecting a copper bull market. I don't want to need a copper bull market to have a very commercial deposit. I want to be very, very comfortable with the current copper price and have plenty of fat to be able to build something like Verkhuba, or for someone to want to build something like Verkhuba. So, the reality is that we can progress these things based on the amount of data we have, cheaply, comparatively very cheaply, and it can't be long before the market really picks up on that. And being an investor myself and having done this a lot, really over the last 20 years, but in particular, I guess the last 5 to 7 years, there's any number of examples I can give you that have small companies which made the discovery and did nothing for a year or two before the market really picked up on that. So that really has to be us, because we've done the work. So it can only be a matter of time. Oh, here we go. Sorry, one more. Christopher L. How long until Verkhuba is irresistible? Well, it's a good word, to potential partners or acquirers. The process last year must have given a reasonable insight into this. It did, Christopher. Yeah, thank you. How long until it's irresistible? I mean, irresistible is a very, very strong word. I think it's still dependent on drill results. We have 46,000 meters of historic drilling, but you can't validate that without new drilling. So it's de-risked strongly from an exploration perspective, but it's not de-risked particularly from a development perspective. So we still need to do that work. Another example of that is we've got results talking about recoveries. So simple flotation gave copper recoveries, around the 87 to 93% mark, I think it was. So we're confident that we should get quite good recoveries from flotation, but until we have samples and run it through our own set of tests and analysis, it's still something we need to do to validate those results. So, AMC put a pre-capex, which is a bit spurious, but a pre-capex NPV of $240 million on just the open pit nearly 2 years ago. If we can put more tons in that pit, if we can have a higher copper price, if we can get better recoveries, but then obviously subject to the capital costs, then there's no reason to think that we can't sort of meet those expectations at some point in the future. So that's what we intend to do. But irresistible is a strong word. What I'll say is that I think the option value is very much there. All the other mines in the region are depleting fast. I think some of them are going to be shutting down in the next couple of years. And so, there's going to be a lot of latent infrastructure absolutely desperate for ore. And that's usually the sort of time that you can, the negotiating angle tips in favor of the person who holds the deposit. So, touch wood, that's sooner rather than later. Paul has just asked about added Verkhuba drilling and the MET test work. None of that's new information, Paul, based on the prospectus which we put out in October last year in the capital raising. So both the MET test work and this drilling were budgeted for in that prospectus.
Perfect. Alex, let me just jump in there. Thank you very much for answering those questions from investors. Of course, the company can review all the questions submitted today, and we will publish responses out on the Investor Meet Company platform. But just before redirecting investors to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to the company, Alex, could I just ask you for a few closing comments?
Yeah, thank you very much. Look, I really appreciate all of you joining us today. Patience, obviously, over December, January, as we do things like wait for results, and we also enjoy a bit of a break over the winter Christmas. That's for some of us as well, despite my team mostly being on site for the bulk of that time. We continue to spend the money that you've given us very wisely. We are very, very cautious about what that capital gets spent on, and we're very aware that every dollar needs to provide value to shareholders. We believe that the latest set of results of Verkhuba will continue to achieve that task. And on top of that, we continue to do relatively low cost work in developing our portfolio for these tier one targets, the sort of targets which major companies get really interested in. So thank you for your continued support. I really hope that our share price will react accordingly to the positive news. And I certainly think Kazakhstan's a fantastic place to continue to operate as we see more and more interest grow in this for this jurisdiction. So watch this space for 2025, but it's going to be a good ride. Thank you.
Alex, thank you once again for updating investors today. Could I please ask investors not to close the session, as you'll now be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team for East Star Resources PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation, and good morning to you all.
Thank you.